I call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Rotractor Pranav. I request Rotractor Trupti Bhosle to recite four-way test and Rotract invocation.
I request everyone to rise for the four-way test and repeat after me.
Trupti, please on your
join केलो.
Yeah. I request everyone to rise for the four-way test and repeat after me. The four-way test. Of the things we think, say or do,
Of the things we think, say or do,
is it the truth?
is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill
Will it be
Will it
well
Goodwill
and better friendship?
and
and
better
better friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be
Will it be
beneficial to all concerned?
concerned?
I request everyone to remain standing for the Rotract invocation.
आजोबांना डिस्चार्ज मिळत होता. आजोबांनी हॉस्पिटलला रिक्वेस्ट केली.
O God, our Almighty, Father and Ruler of the universe, we thank Thee for the inspiration You have given us, for the Rotract movement based upon fellowship through service. We humbly beg You to continue the grace to enable us to do our service to ourselves and to our neighbors and to the honor and glory of the holy name. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotractor Trupti. I request Rotractor Nagarjun Patil to introduce DRR Sahil Gandhi.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to DRR Rotractor Sahil Gandhi. He is an entrepreneur by profession and Rotractor by passion. He was born in Pune and brought up in Kolhapur. He has completed his bachelor's from Pune. He was awarded as the Best Outgoing Student Award. He has cleared IRDA held by Insurance Institution India and completed Global Immersion Program conducted by Sunway International Business and Management Malaysia, and also has completed Millennium Marketing Strategies Program conducted by Eastern Hospitality Malaysia. His Rotract journey started in the year 2014 through an institution-based club at Bangalore, RAC, ABBS RID 3190. Further, he joined Rotract Club of Kolhapur, RID 310 in July 2017. During his presidential venue, he has organized many events. During his Rotary activity, he has learned a lot of leadership qualities, team building, and service to the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotractor Nagarjun. Now I request DRR Sahil Gandhi to address the gathering.
Is there? DRR is there?
Sir, no, he hasn't joined yet.
Should I check no first?
Sir, he told he will join soon.
So then shall we proceed?
Just check whether he will be joining. Few seconds. In Shruti, welcome our guests.
Yes, sir. A special welcome to our today's guest, PDG.
ते कुणा आहे?
Yeah. Continue.
PDG Shah Ilawar to speak a few words.
Well, good morning, Rotarians. Well, you have a speaker, but do you want me to say a couple words for you? So I'm gonna just say a couple.
No, it's just welcome. Later we'll be asking you to say few words.
Well, thank you very much. Honored to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
बरं पाटील सर ऐका, मी तुम्हाला आहे ना 9 वाजता फोन करतो.
Shruti, again you see just any guests are there?
Yes, sir.
We should recognize the guests from other clubs if anybody is there. We have Mr. Anant Mahajan. He is a geologist, senior geologist, and he was past student of JSS College. So we welcome Anant Mahajan.
We welcome you, Anant Mahajan, sir.
Thank you. This is the first webinar with Rotarians. I'm quite delighted and quite anxious to join with you people. Thank you for welcoming me. Thanks a lot.
And there are few scholars from Ratnagiri, Bhaktesh Joglekar College. That's Miss Sonal Hardikar. We welcome Sonal also.
Thank
We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll get on with the proceedings. So it's getting late already. I think so. We'll join at the ending.
So shall we proceed then?
Sir, if he joins later, we will ask him to address him later then.
Okay. So should I proceed? I request Protractor Nagarjun Patil to introduce our guest of honor, Rotarian Nagtilak Ganiko.
Good evening, everyone. It's my honor to introduce our guest of honor, Rotarian Nagtilak Ganiko. Rotarian Nagtilak Ganiko was born on 16 July 1978. He completed his schooling from Kendriya Vidyalaya Air Force Station, Samra, Belgaum. Being an electronic graduate with an corporate management course certificate, he has won many accolades in his student life. He is an Air Wing NCC certificate holder with A grading. He is married to Miss Anni Parimala and blessed with 2 female daughters. Coming to his professional life, he has worked with prestigious corporate companies like Ashok Leyland Finance Limited, Emcure Pharmaceuticals Limited, Bajaj Auto Finance Limited, and last stint was with Vodafone SR South Limited. Rotarian Nagtilak Ganiko joined Rotary E Club on 3rd July 2014, and he was appointed as Club Secretary for the year 2016-17. He was awarded as the Best Secretary Small Clubs category by the Rotarian Dr. Vinay Pal Raikar. He was involved in school number 17, which is the government. He was awarded as outgoing Rotarian for the year 2014-15 by the club.
Thank you, Protractor Nagarjun. Due to some unavoidable reason, he could not attend this session. I request Protractor Abhilash Devadgi to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Surendra Thakur Desai, to the gathering.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce today's main speaker of our seminar, Dr. Surendra Chandrakant Thakur Desai, currently serving as Associate Professor and Head Geography Department, Gupte, Joglekar College, Sub-Center, University of Mumbai since 2015. He was born on 26 September 1971. He completed his schooling from Janana Prabodhini School in 1986 and done his BSc in the year 1992 and the MSc in the year 1994. from Pune University in the geography. He ranked first at the BSc, and he had also cleared NET and completed his PhD in the geography from Pune University in the year 2004. He served as vice principal of college from 2009 to 12. Also, he had the knowledge of Japanese language. He had also completed the course in mountaineering at the Institute and Mountaineering and Allied Sports, Manali, and participated in Mount Ratan expedition. He has completed Major 1, Minor 4, Industry, Sponsored 1, and Government Collaboration 3 research projects and prepared 25 research paper, out of which 9 are published nationally and internationally. Also, International Professional Exchange Program 2011, subject climate change and green energy visit, and visited USA from 4th to 23rd April 2011. He was awarded with the Best Research Paper Award at National Level Seminar held at MS University, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu in 2004. Gunwan Shikshak Puraskar by Lions Club Ratnagiri in 2006. Guruvarya A.K. Desai Adarsh Shikshak Puraskar by Maratha Mandir Foundation 2015. I heartily welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Rotractor Abhilash. Now I request our guest speaker, Dr. Surendra Thakur Desai, to take over the session.
Yeah, unmute Dr. Surendra Thakur Desai.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot to the Rotractors and my friend, senior friend, Dr. Pramod Hanamgon, for inviting me to deliver this talk. And at the outset, I would like to thank all the guests who are present beyond Rotractors Belgaum for this deliberation. I would request Dr. Hanamgon to share the screen and
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. In the beginning itself, I'm sorry that I made a mistake in the title. I was told about human interaction. Somehow it became human interference. Actually, that has moved a bit towards reality. Okay. So I will be speaking about river dynamics and human interaction with the rivers. So I will be speaking into 2-3 different sections. One is where in the beginning we will think of what really is river dynamics. We will take help of few diagrams and all, just to have a look at what really is river dynamics. I know that many of you will be from geography, geology background, so it may become a revision for you, but those who are not, they will get some idea. Then we'll move to the rivers actual. What effort I have done is that actually I have avoided the well-known rivers in this presentation, and it's just to get a glimpse that the rivers that we know. What I have done is that I have avoided as far as possible Yamuna, Godavari, Krishna, or even Nile. Few I couldn't avoid, like Mississippi and Amazon and Ganges to some extent, but I have kept them to a little, and we will have a tour of rivers that are little known all over the world as well as in India. So we will have a tour, and an effort I have made is that I have named every river on the photograph, and it will be a photo tour. So don't be afraid. It won't be a moving deliberation. We will have a tour of rivers, and every photograph or every river has a story. So I haven't put any text, a lot of text on it, but I'll be speaking of the story behind that particular river. And then we move to what really people have made. And people have been very brave. People are learned. They have their own traditional set of knowledge. And so they have lived with rivers very well. So we will have few examples of that. And then we'll move to the so-called techno-man or modern developed world, where especially in India, where we are spoiling our rivers through different activities. Again, we have gained some wisdom, and there are people who are trying to rejuvenate or regain the past. So this will be the flow of my presentation. And I assure you that I'll be stick to the time. I'll just request Ramgod sir to remind me when 10 minutes are left, so that if at all I am a bit slow, I will wind it up. I won't be going through the text, but we know that what river is. And sir, first slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So usually a river is a natural stream of water, and a river need not go to sea. Some rivers, they reach the sea. Some rivers just go into another river. And some rivers, they meet some lakes, like you have Lake Baikal or in Sambar. And few rivers are not fortunate enough, so they just diminish. And they are the seasonal channels, and they diminish, they go nowhere. So all these are called as rivers. And what is more important is that what really we have, now this is a text from a United Nations document. So we take it for granted that water is for our own use and rivers flow for people. And so people have right to use the rivers. Now it's not only the people, but it's the nature plus man who has right to use the rivers. But we think of rivers as a major source of drinking water, irrigation, then industrial and many kind of uses. What is more surprising is that we take it for granted that rivers are places for disposal of municipal waste, industrial waste. So we use the water, at the same time we think of rivers as places for disposal. Navigation, we have been using rivers for navigation for last at least times, and before that we were using on a different scale. And then fishing, boating, recreation, and lastly aesthetics. Now a beautiful river is part of any natural picture. I mean, if I ask you to draw a picture titled as a nature, many of the students, they will have few mountains or hills and a river which is which is meandering through those hills and coming to the place. So rivers are integral part of our aesthetics. So all these are the values of rivers that we use. And so rivers are our resources. Actually, rivers are our lifelines. Next. But when it comes to present topic, that river and man interaction, now it means that rivers are meant for man, rivers are meant, and when there is an interaction, then the word comes which we call as management. So management is something that comes with human factor. Okay, in nature there is nothing called management. In nature the relationships are symbiotic, they are parasitic, or there are no relationships, coexistence you may say. But in human relationships there is almost always a management, and management has a negative sense also. I mean, we need to manage the things because the things go wrong. So the things that go wrong need, and so rivers need management because we are using rivers and the usage is making rivers awful. And so we have to think of management. Now there are issues like river flows for long longer distances, and then there are political boundaries. For example, there are rivers in India, which, so the famous example is between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Kaveri dispute is always there. Then there is a dispute between Karnataka and Goa over Madai, because the headwaters belong to one state and the lower sections go to different states. Sometimes the rivers, they go across different nations. Like we have Ganges and Brahmaputra, which go to Bangladesh. Actually, Brahmaputra comes from China, then it enters India, and then it goes to Bangladesh. We have Indus coming from China, then occupied Kashmir, and through India, and again going back to Pakistan. And there are famous disputes over the rivers, like you have rivers making boundaries of many nations. And then there are issues, like you have issues between US and the distribution of water of Nile and all. So rivers need management, and the goals of management as they are described here is to, it's the betterment of mankind as well as the betterment of river also. So we have to maintain the water quality, we have to maintain the quantity, and we have to also fulfill the demand. So it's a balancing act, and this is what we usually call as river management. Next. Next.
Yeah. It is the river features.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now this is quite common. But this is more of a common sense also. But when we think of rivers as dynamic systems, we have to think of the attributes of river. There are a variety of attributes of river, and a few of the attributes we will be studying. Now these are the attributes that we tend to alter. Now what is man-river interaction? Man-river interaction is all about alterations, and these alterations are with the attributes of the rivers, which are naturally evolved. I am not saying derived. There are few things which are derived, but many of them have evolved over time. As we all know, that landscape is something that evolves over the time with the forces of nature as well as the surface of the earth, the nature kind, and this or what we call as substratum. So there is a substratum or the surface with its own set of characteristics, and then there are forces of nature which are working on it, and through their interactions, the landscape evolves. So rivers, they also evolve. Not only, or they never evolve individually, rivers evolve as networks. And so rivers mean slopes, rivers means width, rivers have depth, then they have the straightness or what we call as sinuosity index, then they carry the material that is called as load. And then the material has its own volume, then material has its own characteristics, and river has to perform something, or in the course of time, river goes on performing something. It's like human life also. We are very young, we are very energetic, and when we are young, we are very high level of energy, but we are busy with very few works, and so we are full of energy, and then people tend to trash the things, tend to destroy the things, tend to break the things. So rivers also tend to erode because they have higher energies than whatever work they have to do. So the work itself becomes an erosion. Then as they go in the middle course, we call as maturity stage or maturity age. Like humans, they have energies, but they have a lot of work to do also. And then there is a balancing between energy and work. And so rivers, they continue. So like people say, okay, how is life? Oh, it's going on. So rivers, they just go on, they transport, and all the features are associated with efficient transportation. And as the rivers go into their lower sections, there is hardly any slope. The slopes are gentle, the rivers are wide, they are deep, and they have very little energy. And then again, like humans, in old age, because there is little energy, people tend to distribute the things. Old people always gift out the things. Similarly, rivers also, they gift out the things and then they start depollution. So it starts with erosion, then goes to transportation, and lastly, it's the depollution. Now, this is what is we call as the stages of river. So river goes through all this. Next. Okay, now we'll come to what really is dynamism. Now, dynamism deals with the diagram you all know is about a drainage network. Okay, we will not go into detail of the theory of drainage network, but rivers are not individuals. Rivers are always networks, and a river will have a tributary, then major tributaries will have their own set of tributaries, and it will continue up to a small rill or a gully. So you have first order streams, then second order streams. So you have rills, gullies, then few small streams, then larger streams, smaller rivers, large rivers, and huge rivers. So it's all a network. And all we know that any change at a given point in network is transferred all over the network. So this is like a mesh. So you bring any vibration into the mesh, the vibration is transferred. Similarly, rivers, they behave as networks. River, they behave as, so we always call as, it's a river basin. So area over which the water is collected is called as river basin. And rivers, what they do, they discharge the water. They carry the water. We will not be going into formulas. The presentation, those who are interested, it's for them also with Anam Goods. Okay. Then rivers, they continue and they have tributaries. They carve their own valleys. Now, when they carve their own valleys and have put up good enough a place, then they go for floodplains, uplands. Now, this channel formation is a form of dynamism. So, one dynamism is carrying the water. Second kind of dynamism of rivers is for carving of their own valleys and the channel. Next. Yeah. Now the flows, when we, I don't know how many of you have crossed river walking or waded through the river. You will come to know that rivers are very interesting, and the river flows are not uniform. I mean, a river, when it's sluggish and flows in a channel at a calm place, usually the flow is called as a laminar flow. And when the rivers are jumping, bouncing over the boulders, then it is called as a turbulent flow. And these flows have very different tendencies. The velocities are different. So you have in the upper diagram how really the laminar and turbulent flows are, how they look from an imagery. And at the bottom, what you have is how really the flows are crisscrossed. Now you will find that turbulent flows have different directions. There are places where in turbulent flow, the water is moving opposite to the slope. And all this makes the river more agile. Now then they scour the bottom, they lift the sediment, the rivers become muddy, and it's very difficult to cross them. It becomes very difficult to wade through them. Then later on, we'll see some photographs how rivers are very naughty and very risky also. Next. Yeah, and then whole river is all about slopes. Actually, whole of the surface of the earth is all about slopes. But rivers, they carve out their own slope, and that is called as their own channel geometry. So they have a long section, like you draw a graph of a river. Usually, a river tries to, what it tries to do is to smooth out its own slope or the section. That is called as a graded river channel, and that is a hypothetical utopian concept. People like say very few rivers in the world are actually in graded stage, where there is a perfect balance at every point between the work to do and the energy it has. Now this kind of situation is very ideal or hypothetical. Usually rivers tend to deviate from this graded profile, and so they jump, they move, they just remain sluggish, and they act or they work with respect to what is called as a base level. So sea level is the basic or the universal base level, as we will say. River cannot go deeper than the sea level, and so rivers, they have this base level. But then we obstruct rivers by constructing dams, or there are natural lakes which are again working at the secondary base levels. And every change that is brought into this section is transferred headwards in the beginning and then in the downstream section afterwards. So this is what is importance of the curve. Now what we usually tend to do is that we bend or we break this curve. Next. Yeah. Now rivers are, yeah, rivers are not only about water. I mean, river is not only water flow. That water carries a lot of material. That is what is called as sediment. Now, when sediment, it moves in different forms, depending upon the size of the sediment as well as the energy of that river also, the velocity and the slope. Depending upon that, the material moves. So material can move as suspended. Like we have Indian rivers in monsoon. They have reddish color. They look like tea, and they are reddish because a lot of material is in suspended phase. Finer materials is washed by rains, and it flows along with the river, and the rivers become very red. There is a lot of material at the bed. Now, this material is not static. If you go to Himalayan rivers, especially in the evening, because during daytime the snow melts, and after 4 o'clock, you will find that the river level rises, and the rivers, they just push the boulders. So you will find that the boulders, they jump, they hop, and the water also moves along the bottom, and it creates ripples. Those of you who have gone to deserts or to seashores, they may have seen ripples, but there are ripples at the river bottoms also. So there is an integral part of river system. Next. Now, this is something very interesting. People who are from, like me, from Konkan, or people who are around Belgaum may not be familiar with these features. But those who are staying in Andhra Pradesh, in Odisha, or in UP, Bihar, Bengal, Bangladesh, or in any lower, any stretch of a larger river, lower stretch of will be familiar that rivers, they keep on modifying their channels. The river channels are not stationary. The rivers, they keep on modifying their channels, and this is a natural process. Okay, and few rivers are known for their shifting channels. They are very risky. In India, we call them as sorrow of the region. For example, Damodar used to be sorrow of Bengal, or now we have Teesta, and which comes into Bengal from Nepal, and it keeps on shifting. Or we have Kosi, which is called as sorrow of Bihar, because Kosi has tendency to shift, and it has moved for more than 100 kilometers in the known history. So rivers tend to bend. They tend to modify their channels according to their energies, according to the water they receive. Then sometimes they cut off the channel. Then they have meanders, they have bars, they have oxbow lakes, and whatnot. And they are dynamic. They are moving, they are leaving, they are dynamic, and they respond. Their response is very, they are highly sensitive. So they respond to every small change that is brought about in the river. You put a pillar, you construct a bridge, put a pillar in a river, and you may feel that there are only 2 pillars in the river channel. But those 2 pillars will bring about a change in the river channel geometry, as well as the flow dynamics of a river. So they are very dynamic. Next. Yeah. And the river water itself is not static. What is more dynamic, more important, especially for a country like India, has seasonal rainfall. Now, this seasonal rainfall is very characteristic feature of India. And we, in some regions, we feel that rivers are flowing only in monsoon, or rivers have floods in monsoon. There are regions of the world where the rainfall is well distributed throughout the years, and rivers almost have static levels. But in case like India, the rivers tend to change. Rivers are confined to channels. But that is not the area where river operates. Actually, we always feel that what is river? River is something, the area inside the channel. River has its own place of work, what is called as a floodplain. And so during floods, it expands, and then there is a sediment transport, then the sediment moves, and floods actually rejuvenate the morphology. They reshape the morphology. Then you have natural levees and all. Now there is a famous example of Brahmaputra at Dibrugarh. I will be showing one photograph where, because in the Assam earthquake, the Brahmaputra bed was lifted, and it was only because of the natural levees Dibrugarh town has survived. Otherwise, the Dibrugarh town would have been part of the Brahmaputra channel. So all this is because of the natural dynamics. Next. Okay. Now we'll go to the rivers, and of course we have to start with Amazon, because that is something that is incredible. I mean, humans would have never imagined something, a river of this scale, and people have tried to think of Amazon. First thing, some of the photographs are not mine, so I have mentioned that to whom they belong. Okay, I haven't moved around the world so much, so I have taken those from one of my friend who is working on rivers for South Asian Network, and she has very good photographs of rivers. So I have taken few photographs from her collection. Okay, now this is about Amazon. Now, why Amazon? Amazon is something which which we call as an apex of what river development can be. To give a rough estimate, it's very rough. I know you don't go into actual figures, but to give a rough estimate, if you calculate total amount of water carried by all rivers of India in 1 year. So the amount of water that is carried by all rivers in India over a year, that amount is equal to the amount of water carried by Amazon in 1 day. So you can imagine the volume of water Amazon carries. And Amazon actually pushes the Atlantic Ocean back, and you will find that near the mouth of Amazon, the water is not saline. The water is fresh, and the fresh water continues kilometers together to Atlantic. Now this is because this is the mighty river and best developed rivers, and to greater extent, I have fullest extent, but it's the most sacred, serene part of what a river could be. So that is something. Next, we'll have a tour of rivers, just about their characteristics. Now, then we have rivers which carve beautiful things. Okay, now this is about Beda Ghat. Okay, now Beda Ghat is on Narmada. Beda Ghat is known for a gorge. And okay, there are many gorges. I think Karnataka is having Kaveri Gorge, and there are many gorges. Like you have gorge for Kali, you have gorge for Sharavati. Beda Ghat is very special because it's a marble gorge, and the gorge is carved in marble belt, and you can move through the channel. I mean, you can hire a boat and move through the channel and see the marble cliffs. It's very amazing and interesting. And Narmada has been very active. Now we all know that Narmada is a river which has got a tectonic control and all. I mean, you are geologist, I am not an expert in it, but it has done wonders in Beda Ghats. So this is the beauty that rivers create. This is one example. There can be, I mean, only if I take gorges in India, the number can go. Now this is Dhuadhar. Next, sir. Yeah, just at the head of Beda Ghat, where the Narmada plunges into Beda Ghat, is a waterfall which is called as Dhuadhar. Yeah, this is the waterfall, and here you will find that the waterfalls. It's called as Dhuadhar because the things are very misty. Okay, the water particles, they are always floating in the air, and many a times you cannot see the waterfall just because you have a curtain of all those. Like Niagara, you have in US, or Athirapalli in Kerala, or even Gokak in monsoons will be full of mist. Okay, all these are wonderful waterfalls. Actually, these are the nig points which are taken upstream by these rivers. So this is the Dhuadhar. So we get wonderful waterfalls which actually speak of the dynamism. Rivers are working to their fullest strength at these places. So these are the places where actually rivers are more dynamic. Next. Yeah. Then these are US rivers. These are not Indian rivers. One is Rio Grande, just near the Mexico border, and second is Yosemite. Now these are very different rivers. Now we have rivers in rainforests. Amazon is a river in rainforest. Daily it receives water. Daily it carries the water, and it's full of water. Then we have river like Narmada, which has origin in medium rainfall region, and it has hardly any tributaries, but still it carves its valley. Now we have rivers which are in dry region. So we have river like Rio Grande, which never appears to be a river in full section. But these are also wonderful rivers that we see. Yosemite is known for a river which is superimposed on glaciated terrain, because we have Yosemite National Park, and then the river comes out through it, and then you have rivers which are superimposed on the earlier topography. So that can be an example. Next. Okay, now this is very our own. This is Chalakudi River in Kerala. This is just above the Athirapalli Falls. Now, these are wonderful and scenic rivers. If we allow the rivers to flow by their own, what wonders they can create. Now, this example will never show you any wonder. I have avoided purposefully the Athirapalli waterfall photograph, because I thought that you will search for the waterfall photograph, and it's very amazing. I mean, the rivers are amazing. If you look at this river, you will never feel shaped waterfall. Similar to St. Lawrence, people go for boating in St. Lawrence just beyond Niagara, and it's very calm and quiet, and then it plunges over the fall, over the ledge. Similarly, this Chalakudi plunges over the ledge, and it creates an Athirapalli. So rivers, if they work on their own, they are most beautiful places to see. Next. Yeah. Now, we always feel that rivers are in wet regions, rivers are in rainfall regimes, but these two rivers are from dry region. And one is from US, one is from India. Why US? Because I got a good photograph. I was looking for other very dry rivers we do have in next slides, but these are in arid regions. Okay, or you may say semi-arid. This Sipna is a beautiful river. Sipna is known for, I mean, people visit Sipna just to see the beauty of Sipna. You have what is called as a riparian vegetation. You will find that there is a tree line along the bank of this river, a continuous tree line. Even in this photograph, you can see. This is called as a vegetation that grows only along the bank, and this is called as riparian vegetation. It's a shallow river, not huge river, no great amount of water, but still it supports a fantastic ecosystem around its own. And Sitna is known for tigers. I mean, tigers in Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has got largest number of tigers, or used to have largest number of tigers. And Sitna is one of the major contributor to the tiger population. So rivers, they are living, they are dynamic, even in dry regions. This is San Marcos from Texas. Okay, now this river is known for its beautiful algal growth. Sir, previous slide. Previous slides.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this San Marcos is a river which is known for its algal growth, and you will find that this river is full of algae. It's not a long river. You will not find any great reference in encyclopedias and all, but beautiful algal growth. Similar, we have rivers in Arunachal, we have rivers in Kerala, 10-12 kilometer long stretches, but they are full of a variety of algal growths, and so they are very significant and they are very important, key parts of it. So river, it's not that they need to be mighty. They can be small, but still they can be very important. Next. Then there are rivers which which never appear to be a river. This is the river in Morocco, heart of Sahara. This is called as river of roses because you will find that these are actually rose plants. These are wild rose plants, and all along the section you get wild rose plants naturally grown along this river. This river flows for hardly few hours or in dry region. Yeah, and how dynamic they can be. Now, actually, these three photographs are of one and single river from India, and the total stretch is only around 2.5 to 3 kilometers. So, in the first picture, you will see there is a bridge. This is river Lohit. Okay, Lohit is the name of the river. This is one of the easternmost rivers in India. It comes from China and it enters into India, crosses Arunachal Pradesh and comes to Assam Valley. And it is one of the easternmost rivers of India. It's a tributary of Brahmaputra. Actually, Brahmaputra is formed after assemblage of Rohit, Siang, Dibang. It's in Himalayas. So near the bridge, it's in Himalayas. In second photograph, it's just entering, plunging into the plain, so that the river has taken a new channel and it has cut the mountains. Now there was a huge landslide, and every year the river is cutting towards the right bank and is shifting. And now the next photograph is from the hilltop, actually what you see as a landslide. And you will find that as soon as it enters the plain, it loses everything. So in first photograph, the river is having very crystal blue water, turbulent flow, very dynamic. In next, within 1 kilometer, it becomes sluggish, full of sediment. And as it reaches the valley, what we call as Assam Valley or Brahmaputra Basin, it becomes so sluggish that it gets braided. You will find that there are many channels in the third photograph. Okay, there are many channels and it's broken into channels, so it gets braided. So this is what happens. Next. And rivers are not always beautiful when they are in nature. Rivers can be beautiful even if they are in cities, if people are clever enough to understand the importance of rivers. So if people are good, if the rivers are, you do hand holding for the rivers, then you will find that rivers look beautiful even in the cities. This is Mississippi. And Mississippi, one of the mightiest rivers in the world, and Mississippi flowing near New Orleans. It's just to enter the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a huge river. Actually, why I have taken this photograph? Why not Hooghly? Why not any other mouth? Because Mississippi is one of the longest river systems. Taken together, it is longer than Nile. If you take Mississippi and Missouri together, it's longer than Nile. So it has a large area, and still people have, they made a mess, but still now they have regained and they have tried to keep the river as beautiful as this at the end. So this can be the beauty of the river. Next. And then what rivers do? These are the tools. I have just kept, this is what we call as bed load. But these are the tools. Rivers have their energies, but only energy will not do anything. Energy, it will do or little thing. But when energy is supplemented with a tool, rivers do wonders. And you will find, as we all learn geography, geology, we always look for sediments, their characteristics of sediments. And these are the tools that rivers carry. And rivers are known for sorting. Now this is ill sorted. but rivers are known for sorting, and actually sediment is integral part of river. We actually forget that sediment is an integral part of river, and then there are many issues that are created because of the rivers. Next. So rivers can be small but can be living. Okay, and this photograph is again from Indian river from Karnataka itself. Very small streamlet, rather not a river. Very small streamlet of Sharavati. But rivers, you get some water and there is life. And rivers are known for aquatic life. So aquatic life is also a part of dynamism of the river systems. Next. Yeah, and there was one experiment done by people in different parts of the world, and this is what is very similar to what we always experience about vegetation also, what we call as habitat. Every species needs its own niche or a typical habitat, and you will find that the species, it can be, will it be man or a plant or an animal, actually has its fullest growth when habitats are very conducive. Usually, when we will be speaking of the mischief that we have played with rivers, we will be speaking that most of the encroachment on rivers is on floodplains. And here you will find that these fishes were of the same size 3 weeks ago. So rivers, so the fishes have grown best in the floodplains. Usually floodplains we take as these are the places which are utilized for 15 days or 1 month, and for rest of the year they are of no use. They don't contribute to anything, but you will find that floodplains are the best because they are rich in nutrients. This is because the floodplains you usually get in late maturity or the old stage, where river has collected a lot of sediment, there is a lot of organic material, and that actually is conducive for the planktonic growth, and the whole food chain is established. And so, and what happens in the human induced systems like canal? So in canal, the growth is not only retarded, but it is also deformated. The fishes, they show a bend, so there is a deformity. So human systems, they cannot replace the river systems. We cannot say that if rivers have good fishes, canals will also have good fishes, because rivers are all about evolution and networking. Canals are more linear. Next. And then, okay, now we'll come to the man part of it. Okay, this was all a tour of what rivers, wonderful rivers we have. Now, this is one of the ancient collage, mosaic, as we call. This is in near Jerusalem, in Jordan. It is. It's in a church that was excavated, or rather, it's going. The excavation is going on, and this is a cartographic. This is a map. Actually, all these mosaics, they are maps of the region that people have seen. And why this is important? Now this is in the this belongs to 5th century. So people have thought of rivers, people have thought of life in rivers, people have thought of crossing the rivers, and all this is seen in this mosaic. So this mosaic speaks of and confluence of river with a larger water body. We don't know whether it's a sea or a lake, but the people have, I mean, for centuries, for at least 1500, more than 1500 years, people have been knowing the importance. They were aware of the contribution of rivers, and they were living with the rivers. So the life was in association. It was symbiotic with the rivers. It was not that we are terrestrial animals and rivers are aquatics. So people have good relationships, and you will find that they are integral part of their life. So this is one of the wonderful evidences that how people had a connection with the rivers. Next. And then this is from Karwar. This is very near to Karwar, not exactly Karwar, but people have been using rivers. Traditionally, I mean, the things have evolved around rivers, especially if you visit any coastal area in Karnataka, more prominently in Goa and Maharashtra, Konkan, you will find that the culture is along the rivers and creeks. I mean, all the traditional villages were on the banks of the rivers, and rivers were the lifelines. So, I mean, now boating is a fantasy, or boating is a fancy thing. People go for boating as an entertainment. Traditionally, boating was something which was part of life. I mean, my family used to own a boat because we have our ancestral home on estuary bank, and we used to own a boat. And everyone used to have that art of same way, taking a bamboo pole and take the boat into the creek. So this was the life. And traditionally, conventionally, people are associated with rivers. Rivers, they support. Now, therefore, we have to maintain the rivers, because these are the people who are more connected to the rivers rather than the urban elites. Next. They are connected for everything. This is from Aganashini in Karnataka. Okay, Aganashini is, I tell you, I have visited Aganashini many times and just moved along the bank. Now Aganashini mouth is a tourist hotspot, I know. But Aganashini is one of the least disturbed rivers in coastal Karnataka. Okay, if you really want to see least disturbed, I am not saying zero disturbance, but this is one of the fantastic rivers that has been fortunately retained very near to you. And if you go from its origin to its mouth, you will find that it creates wonders. So this is very wonderful, and people are harvesting. It's not that it's something sacred, protected. No, people are harvesting, people are consuming, but they are consuming judiciously. They are having what we usually now call as eco-friendly lifestyle. But that this is what we have. So this is very good example of man, people, consumption, and rivers. Next. This is example from West Bengal, actually border of Bengal and Assam. This is called as bill. Now this word you will find everywhere in Assam and Upper Bengal, even in Bangladesh. Bill is actually an oxbow leg kind of a thing. Okay, these bills along the Brahmaputra and all its tributaries and all in the plains, you will get these bills, and these are huge. These are actually lakes, elongated lakes, you may say. These are old oxbow lakes or river channels, and now they have water which is stagnant, but in floods they are recharged, and there is some subsurface flow, and people are harvesting these bills. So they use these bills for fish catch. They use these bills as aquaculture ponds. They use these bills to, I mean, lotus is their vegetable. Lotus is their food. And so they grow lotus. You will find that there is water hyacinth, which indicates pollution and human, I mean, the disturbance has started. There is water hyacinth. But they traditionally, and all this material used is all biodegradable. The grasses that they use, only the one nylon net is seen. Otherwise, everything they are using traditionally. And these bills, they are common property resources. So rivers are common property resources. If managed well, they can sustain and support the people for generations together. So this is one very good example that you can see anywhere in Assam or Bengal. Next. Yeah, and they are for navigation. In India, we don't have very good navigable rivers. Ganges used to be navigable, but now again we are reviving. There are navigable rivers. Amazon is used for navigation. Nile is used. Mississippi is used. Many rivers in US, Canada are used. In Europe, Rhine is used. They have connected rivers through canals for navigation. You can actually cross whole of the Europe through rivers. So there are many navigable rivers. In India, we don't have, because we don't have good perennial rivers really. And wherever they are perennial, there is little scope for navigation. But Brahmaputra is one best example of navigation. and you will find that every kind of people are there. Now this is a ferry which takes you from one bank of Brahmaputra to another bank, and this is the Brahmaputra that you see in the background. It's a huge river. Now here where this is called as Sadiya Ghat, just north of Dibrugarh, sorry, to the east of Dibrugarh, and here the Brahmaputra is around 3.5 kilometers wide. This is the narrowest part, and here you will find this ferry is there, and everything is taken. So people, this is like a bus service, and people have been using rivers for navigation. Next. This is the miss. You may have listened to Bhupen Hazarika songs. If you have gone through the novels of Rabindranath or any novel that is associated with Bengal or Bangladesh, especially earlier East Bengal, you will find that rivers are always described as something which is very mystic and which is very which is very different or which we cannot think of. So this mysticism is because actually the rivers are full of mist. Now this is a daytime photograph. I am moving in a ferry and one another ferry which actually goes for diesel supply is passing by. And it's so misty that it's only this is what next. Okay. Now this is what we did earlier. Okay. Okay. Now rivers, I just told you that shallow rivers can also be very frightful. Now this is one example. You may laugh that the bus is standing on so-called, previously it was called as National Highway in India, National Highway 52A. Now there is no sign of any road, any bridge. Okay. Now this is a tributary, a small tributary of Brahmaputra, somewhere on North Bank in Arunachal. And the rivers are so swift. They are shallow, no doubt they are shallow. They are very swift. And it becomes very difficult that to wade through these rivers, it becomes very difficult. And you will find that everywhere people have tamed the rivers. Now it's not modern taming, what we do in modern days. That is not what I am speaking about. This is taming means people have had their own technologies. Now what they are preparing for, they are putting wooden panels just to, because we are loading our own jeep on that boat. So the two boats are tied together, there are wooden panels and we will be loading our vehicle on that boat and they will be taking. Now the bus that you see which is wading through is actually an army bus. So those people, they can think of putting whole of their bus into the channel and wading through, but these are very swift. Now you will wonder why there is no bridge, even if it's a national highway. This river has shifted for 3 kilometers in 1 year. So you start constructing bridge at one place and you will find that within 2-3 months, the river has moved to some other place, because in rivers, you will find the Himalayan ranges in the background. They come from Himalayas, they receive heavy rainfall for 8 months at least, and they have flash floods, they are full of sediments. So they are very dynamic and people still, they enjoy, they live with all these rivers. Next. And this is modern. This is again from US. We have, why I have taken this, because this, we feel, okay, we need water where there is no water. And of course, there are some questions in chat box also. Few I can see. Okay, so dams are there. Now dams are, as what our first Prime Minister said, they are temples of modern India. He described, he was inaugurating Bhakra Nangal Dam. Actually, he was handing over this dam to the nation. And while doing that, he gave a speech. And in that speech, he said that dams are the temples of modern India. And this is said in 1950s. So dams are known for their technologies. Dams are known for their, as a symbol of development. And people have done wonders with the technology. I'm not saying wonders with the rivers and wonders with the nature. I'm saying wonders with the technology. and they have constructed dams at any place. I mean, we say at any dam place like that. Okay, and there are series of dams. Actually, I was looking for a Hoover Dam photograph, but I couldn't find. I mean, there are many on the internet, but someone who can I contact and take. Okay, I lost my own photograph. So these dams have done what they have done. They have altered the ecology. There was one question about linking of rivers and dams. Actually, this is a desert, and this desert, in a desert, we need water because people have settled. Otherwise, these deserts have survived from centuries together with whatever little water they have. Deserts are not non-productive. Desert doesn't mean there is no life. Desert doesn't mean there is no habitat, there is no ecosystem. Everything is existing. Only thing is that we always feel that something that is natural has to look green, which is a wrong idea. Everything we need not look green in nature. Things can look yellow, things can look brown, and still they are perfectly natural. They are perfectly in their own position, they are perfectly intact. To make the things green, to make our own agricultural lands, to have water for us to drink, we stayed in deserts where people are not supposed to go in huge numbers, and then we did this. And these are the points where we started playing blunders. Next is our own example, Narmada, Sardar Sarovar in Narmada. Okay, this is again an example. This is also a mighty dam that we have. Now, in case of Colorado, why I have selected Colorado and Narmada? Because there is a series of dams. On Colorado also, there is a series of dams, and in Narmada also, there is a series of dams. More than 32 are going to come in the catchment. And you will find that there is no river existing just below the wall of the dam. There is no river. Okay, so this is what we have. Next. Yes, sir. Okay, this is an example. Again, there was an issue about river linking. Same was tried in Arunachal. For idle power generation, what we did was that one river was diverted to another river and the dam was constructed so that we can get more power generation. And so a river, one river lost its water and second river received double of its water as tail water. And it started moving in full speed. And you will find that it started carving the mountains. So river linking, which is unwanted, river linking, which is unthought of, is an issue in many of these things. Next. This will look very beautiful. This is the Kumardhara river. This comes from Meghalaya. Okay. Now this will look very beautiful. Actually, this is full of coal particles. Meghalaya is known for illegal mining. And there are coal seams because Meghalayan plateau is part of Deccan Plateau. And these coal seams are mined illegally. And this is full of Next. Again, an example. Actually, this river comes from atomic power plant. And what? People are not allowed to visit this stretch of river. I could get this photograph because I was moving with someone who could manage to go there. Okay. But this is highly polluted river. So beautiful, so serene, but completely polluted. Now this is receiving, actually here they have natural uranium sources and now there are oil sources also. And now this river is under fire. It has caught fire because the natural oil is oozing out through the wells. Next. And then we manage the floodplains. This is the left-hand side photography was Krishna. Last year we seen what happened to Krishna and all its tributaries from Koyna to Tungabhadra in Karnataka. So you will find that various flood levels are marked and 2019 is highest. We should not blame the river. Actually, this is on the bank and this is the floodplain. Same in Terekhol, tributary of Terekhol in Savantwadi. In 2019 itself. We tried to manage the floodplain, we constructed a road and everything was Next. And one thing is very beautiful, second thing is all mess. This is one of the very famous resorts in Mexico. Yucatan River is there, and it is known for its beautiful pools. These are natural pools, and people have, I mean, they somehow maintain the beauty. What we did in India, this is Manikaran. Manikaran is very famous for hot springs. People visiting Manali, Kulu, or on the way to Ladakh, they always visit Manikaran, and it becomes a mess because there is no control on number of people and what activities they do. What the people are doing is that they are cooking rice. Similar thing is in New Zealand also. The water is so hot that you can just put raw rice in a cloth and dip it, and it will get cooked. Next. Next. Sir, one we lost, I think. It was. Okay, I'll discuss about this. This is Arwari. What is so typical of this? Actually, this was a dead river, and in India there is a movement called as river rejuvenation. So people are bringing the rivers back to life, and this is the first successful example in Rajasthan, in a desert region, semi-arid region, or rather arid region, where people have brought a river to the life. And they have used all their traditional knowledge, no great technologies, nothing. Local tools, local technologies, and local brains. And they have brought this Arwari river to the life. The region which was known for migration because it's on the halfway between Jaipur and Delhi, is now a hub of agriculture. And this has happened. Now there are many cases in India coming up where people have learned the lessons that we should not try to mishandle or play mischief with the rivers, and we can bring back rivers to the life. There is an activity called as Green Bridges. A Rotary Club of Ratnagiri has participated in constructing a green bridge on a small stream in Ratnagiri. Now this green bridge is a concept which is developed in Udaipur, and we construct a green bridge to filter the water, and the river gets cleaned and rejuvenated. So these kind of ideas are again coming up. So we had some good association, we lost the track, and now we are regaining the idea, or we are clever enough, we got the lesson and coming back to nature. Next. So thank you. This is Siang River near Pasighat, one of the most beautiful rivers I have seen. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. This session is open for question and answers. If any doubt, you can ask. Sir, and even there are some questions in the chat box.
Good evening, friends. Rotary,
Yeah.
you have presented. This is Anant Mahajan. You have presented very beautiful session for me. I'm audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thank you. I thank you a lot. It was luck by chance. I visited because Dr. Hanam God, my senior colleague, he was directly, indirectly putting me in the pressure. You are not seen somewhere. Most of the things you are missing. From the geology point of view, my few questions are there, which I had put up in the chat box.
Okay.
Before that, just few seconds of the minutes, I will take it. I will put it in this one. What I could understand with this discussion was that entire civilization, whatever has happened along the river, along the sides of the river, banks of the river, what we call it. Now, the idea what the sir wanted to give us was to preserve the reserve water. One question I had put it, when the river gets polluted. Then second, from the next point, from the geological point of view, the lot of photos what he has shown plays a very, very important role from the point of geology. For further details, Dr. Hanamgod is available. I am also available. Geology students can discuss with us. River flow versus mineral content, and where it is carrying, when it is carrying, that becomes very much important. And because why it becomes important? Because that leads to the placer deposits of the rivers. Most of the gold deposits, lithium deposits, tin deposits, etc., apart from the seashores, river deposits also play a very good setup, especially in the India and part of
that is economical aspect.
Yeah, economical aspect. Thank you for correcting me, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Then again,
let's be short and crisp, so that others also can interact, and let's.
Yes, I am about to this next thing. The change of course of rivers, what the sir was talking about. If you have got the chance, Dr. Hanamgod sir, if you can take your students to the Ghataprabha river, especially in the near to the Gokak Falls, and right side of it, of the falls, you can find the change in the course of this one. Ancient potholes are there, as well as recent potholes are there. If required, if the time permits, I will come and discuss with you.
Yes, yes.
Whenever I am there, we can work it out. We can have a small field visit.
Yeah.
And in the last but not least, I thank you all. Luck by chance, again I will say,
thank you.
I was with you, pupil. Thank you very much. I am very much excited to be with you. Enjoyed a lot. Very good session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, there was one question in chat box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about the removing JCB, using JCB and desilting of rivers. I think Birbhai sir asked that question.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, actually, this is a practice in the water management in India, especially in dry land part of Deccan Plateau, that we are using rivers as storehouses. And for that, we are deepening the channels, we are desilting the channels and making rivers as storehouses. This is we have Jalayukta Shivar as it. There are issues, technical issues, and I feel that this kind of activity has to be done with a good supervision and study of either geomorphologist or a geologist. Uncontrolled deepening of rivers will actually lose the water rather than making the river flowing. So that has to be avoided because sand acts as an aquifer, and if you remove all the sand, then the aquifer is lost. So that has to be well supervised and studied. It should not go rampant.
Yes.
Next.
Especially sand mining.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll move next. Shruti.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I think DRR has joined us.
Okay.
I request DRR Sahil Gandhi to please address the gathering.
A very good evening, everyone. Respected dignitaries present here and the Surendra sir. Thank you so much for inviting me. First of all, I'm really very sorry. I couldn't be there at the beginning because of some network issues, but I joined as suddenly as I could. Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative session. I think that this is the necessity of today, that planning such sessions, arranging such informative sessions rather than just having entertainment programs. So special thanks to Rotaract Club of GSS as well as the Department of Geology that you could bring all the students together on Zoom to witness such a great session, such an amazing session with all the necessary information. Thank you so much, and thank you so much once again for inviting me here. I won't take much of time. I know many of the speakers are waiting here to speak and to interact with Surendra sir. So thank you so much for inviting me again. And great job, GSS. Keep it up.
Thank you, DRR Sahil Gandhi. I request today's special guest, PDG Shahab Ilawar to speak a few words.
Well, good evening, good morning, namaste, namaskar. I am so privileged and honored to be listening to Dr. Surendra and his beautiful explanation about the rivers and the beauty of the rivers, and also some of the rivers like the Rio Grande, which is not so beautiful because they dump over 7 million gallons of sewer every day in that river. And actually, I'll be speaking about that at 2 o'clock in our time today. You make the world just phenomenal because of your energy, because of your positiveness, because what you put into it. So, and we call these people, Dr. Surendra, this morning, we should induct you into the people of action. You are making peace through just explaining to the people the importance of the life, of the water, of the rivers in the world. So thank you again for joining us today. So you make a big difference. And I hope the Rotaract will probably bring you right in, Dr. Pramanko. You probably want to bring him right into Rotary. So he's a big asset to all of us. But I just want to thank you again for all you do, your young blood, your energy, and the wisdom of the Rotarians who work with you and on the ground that will bring the Rotary to the new height. You all know that Rotary will not have the 7th area of focus about the environment if it wasn't for the Rotaract and the young professionals in Rotary that really emphasizes on that aspect. So I want to congratulate you for all you do. Everything you do counts. Like my grandfather says, when you build a great castle, every little nail counts. So everything you do, it counts towards the peace in the world. And water is becoming a big issue around the world. So without water, we cannot function around the world. So thank you again. So for all of you and for the president, I want to present you with one of these days, we will meet again in face. And this will be yours for opening the opportunity for our young Rotarians to be active. I am proud that I am the founder of Rotaract for Peace, and hopefully we have actually funded for enough money to have 300 Rotaract joining our Rotary Action for Peace, and we'll pay for your fees and for annual fees. So, and hopefully next year we will all work together, Rotaract, Rotarians at the same time, because you will be able to join Rotary as a whole. So thank you again. And for the service you provide for the world, all I can tell you that service with passion. When I see you guys go in the streets, in the communities, helping others right now where they need it the most, because a lot of people right now just like us, a lot of the Rotarians are mature, they cannot be exposed, but you, the young blood, are carrying the message and the service to others on a daily basis. I couldn't be more proud. And what we call that, I just found this one, is peace on earth, goodwill to all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Dr. Anand and all of you, thank you again for all you do for humanity and positive peace in the world. Thank you very much.
That was encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I request Rotractor Neha Gowdy to present the vote of thanks, followed by secretarial announcement.
It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks for today's session. I thank our today's guest speaker, Dr. Surendra Thakur Desai, Head of Department, Geography, Gokte Zogolekar College, Ratnagiri, our Chief Guest, DRR Sahil Gandhi, Guest of Honor, Rotarian Nagtilak Ganiko, PDG Shab Ilavar, and all the members present. I thank all the members for their contribution to make this event a great success. My gratitude to all the speakers for gracing this occasion and sharing their valuable time with us. Lastly, I thank for joining and making this event a great success. Thank you. Today's secretarial announcement is there was 60% of attendance and the next POD meet will be informed to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotractor Neha. Please rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you. I request Protractor Pranav Pashapur to attend the meeting.
I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Good night. We will close the session. Thank you, Surendra sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Surendra sir.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you, one and all.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.